Today, the vast majority of humanitarian aid distributed following a disaster is in the form of goods, be it food, clean water, shelter, or other needs. But only a few percent of the $22 billion spent on disaster response is distributed through humanitarian or currency payments. In part because it's still early days, there isn't a consensus on how to describe or to define these payments. Sometimes they're referred to as cash payments, but as electronic payments grow, that might not be the best term. For now, we'll call it humanitarian or currency payments. There are several types or models, from actually giving cash to giving paper vouchers to a credit card or a gift card that designates points for a specific purpose. This isn't an entirely new concept. Companies like Visa and MasterCard have been working on these issues for years. Back in 2011, Visa and the Cash Learning Partnership, a consortium of humanitarian aid organizations, started working together to improve the delivery of cash transfers in times of disaster. And in September, MasterCard launched the MasterCard Aid Network, a service designed to streamline aid distribution even in places without telecommunications infrastructure. And cash for work programs have been put in place in places like Haiti and Iraq, where local people are paid in exchange for their time spent helping in the disaster response. Still, there are reasons that traditionally disaster response has equated to the delivery of goods. And that is because often, in the immediate aftermath, local infrastructure may be damaged or completely destroyed. However, as we see more protracted disasters with response that may require a number of years, finding new ways to work, especially ones that can help boost local economies, may do more good. In the case where immediate supplies aren't needed, providing money by way of cash, electronic payments, that paper voucher, or a gift card will allow people to buy goods and services. And in fact, it's been shown to be both cheaper and more effective. Local economies bounce back faster, recipients are empowered and treated with greater dignity, which is also critically important post-disaster. One example today are Syrian refugee families in Lebanon who were facing freezing conditions in winter a couple years ago. They received $100 a month through special ATM bank cards from international aid agencies. Those families spent the money primarily on food and water and necessities, but also on blankets and sweaters to keep warm. But the benefits extended beyond those individual purchases. According to the International Rescue Committee's 2014 report, Emergency Economies: The Impact of Cash Assistance in Lebanon, about $2.13 was created in local markets for every dollar that was spent, and the households that received that money were half as likely to send their children to work, so there was greater access to education. Momentum is building around this idea, from the IRC report to DFID's recent high-level panel on humanitarian cash transfers. But in many places, systems are needed, often in advance of a disaster, to be able to distribute these payments. As an organization wants to respond, they need to be there tomorrow. So cash or a closed-loop system like a gift card that can be used for goods at a refugee camp, but might not be widely accepted at stores, may be the easiest response. Ideally, in the future, there will be a more open system, but that depends on the country. And if there's a high level of financial inclusion and electricity to begin with, these open systems will be easier to deploy. So the systems, the internet connectivity, the electricity, having trained staff, and new technology tools all need to be developed. In the long term, this may mean that the role of an NGO in response to conflict may change. While NGOs will continue to deliver in-kind aid in the immediate response to a conflict through robust logistics and delivery systems, they will also need to develop expertise in new areas. In the future, they may focus more on identifying beneficiaries, determining needs, and setting up systems. This is certainly not going to happen overnight. This sort of change from 2 to 3% of total spending to perhaps a much larger percent will take time. But as conflicts become more protracted in nature, this will certainly be part of the conversation.